Hi everyone. So in this video, I'm going to talk about another boilerplate provision that we see a lot in entertainment contracts about assignment. Assigning your contract, saying, hey, I know I promised you this, but now I'm assigning my agreement to someone else, and they're going to be the one to pay you and take care of my responsibilities. This happens a lot in entertainment. Often there's a small production company, they hire a writer, they get a script going, and then they find a larger production company or a studio who takes over. And obviously the studio is going to want all the rights. So instead of, selling them or renegotiating them, we just say, you already have a deal with your writer, assign that deal to me. So now I fill in your shoes, and now it's my responsibility to pay the writer. So an important thing to make sure that is in contract as a producer is to say that you have the unlimited right to assign this agreement to whoever you want. Now, that doesn't cut both ways though. It makes sense for the producing company to say, well, for now I'm in charge, but eventually a studio is going to want these rights, so I need to be able to give that studio everything I have. But that's not quite the same for an actor or a writer. In fact, it's kind of the opposite. When I'm hiring a writer, they can't just say, oh, you know what? I found another guy. He's going to do the writing. It doesn't work that way. Same with acting. It's like, no, I'm hiring you as an actor. So usually what you'll see in these assignment agreements or provisions is that the studio can have the right to freely assign it to anyone, but the talent cannot sign it, at least not without the studio's consent. Sometimes there's a company that says, well, what if I'm bought out, and certain exceptions might be made. Usually we just say you need our consent in case something like that happens. But that's a big thing that goes into contracts. Studios can assign freely, talent cannot. But what talent lawyers often do is they'll bring up okay, but you can't just give it to anybody. I know you're allowed to give it to any entity, but I'm worried that you're just going to give it to some, random no one company and then say, oh, they'll pay you. And when they don't pay you, well, sucks because they were supposed to pay you and I assigned it to them, so I'm not responsible. So what talent lawyers usually say is that a studio should remain secondarily liable. So the idea is, okay, I get it. You can assign this to whoever you want. I get that now I got to get my money from these new people. But if the new people fail to pay me, then you have to pay me. You're secondarily liable. So I'll go to them first for whatever fee I was promised that I originally negotiated with you. I get it. These other people are going to pay it to me now. But I need to make sure they can actually pay. So if they don't pay, you're responsible. And so me, as a studio lawyer, I get it. That's not insane of a request. But at the same time, I don't want my client to be liable or secondarily liable forever. So a customary thing we do is to say, okay, I'll stay secondary liable unless I've given it to, a legit, strong other production company. So if I'm HBO and I have a deal and I decide I'm not going to do this project and I give it to Netflix, I say, hey, this is now your deal. That should assuage any concerns that this person might not be paid. Netflix is a huge company and they should be responsible for it without HBO worrying about it anymore once it's been assigned. But it's a little different if HBO assigns it to me, to just Alex Akhavan. Everyone's like, who the heck is this guy? What if he can't pay it? He doesn't count as, a major studio. So the likelihood if, HBO assigns something to me, they would probably stay secondarily liable. Eventually, like I said, you need a big company to agree to these obligations. And so that's the type of thing that we negotiate on a regular basis.